Good evening. We now have volume. I'm glad you're here. I was like, why don't I have volume? My iPad is muted. So, like and share, get on. Be sure you comment if you're here. I'll ask a question that'll give you a reason to comment. I see Barbara and Clinton and Grace just said your mic is off. You're about 10 seconds behind, babe. As a kid, what was your first priority? That's what I want to know. As a kid, when you think back, what was your first priority? Like, what was the first thing? Maybe a better description would be, what were you responsible for? The first thing you can think about back could be an animal. If it's an animal, give us the name. If it was a chore or something that you were responsible for, give us that, and somebody's going to have to shut that down in there. All right, so be sure you're getting on, liking, and sharing, and following as well. Caleb said his first responsibility was chores in general, and I don't know if that's the general store or just in general as all the time. What was your first priority? First thing that you were responsible for. And while you're doing that, be sure you like and share. Joey Pearson, hey preacher, says getting chores, homework done. Once they were done, that's when I could go play outside. Yeah, and that's just about how it works all of the time. And there's a lot of chores around here. We had a bunch of kids to split them up. Now there's not as many kids to split them up, so they fall back to us some. I remember the kid said one time, "What are you going to do when we all grow up and move out?" And I was like, "We did the chores before you were here, so we'll do them afterwards." Shelby said, "Homework right after we got home from school." Why isn't that? Should slide over. There we go. School. Homework right after we got home from school for one of the first things they were responsible for. Marcy said feeding lots of bunnies, cats, and dogs. And then y'all ate those, right? No, just the bunnies. they, yeah, that's a funny story. That'll be for another time. Tammy says, my dog, I'm not gonna Kimosabi. There we go. Name after Lone Ranger's nickname. Haha. So her first responsibility was her dog. I remember when we had the puppies and they were getting housebroke. Each one of them, the kids were responsible for getting up, staying up all night, doing those kind of things. Grace says chores and rabbits. Brenna says mowing was one of her first responsibilities. She was responsible for getting things. Yeah, Brenna says mowing. I knew it was Brenna that was saying mowing. If you're getting on, I'm going to say it again for those that are getting on. Like, share, comment, hit the bell notification. This costs $0. In the description at Facebook and YouTube, both are places that you can follow and like, share, and subscribe. You can support the stream through the PayPal link if you want to do that. And then the Amazon link has the my book stuff. Amazon, Construction of a Young Man, and paperback and Kindle. Be sure you go and buy it now. It's hot, and yeah, it's always been hot, but whatever. So tonight we have a couple things to do. Shelby says school work, or Abby says school work, keeping my toys and roomed picked up. I knew Shelby wasn't done. She put also feeding horses and cleaning stalls. And guess what? She still does that. And she's like 40 and she still feeds horses and cleans stalls. And so I can't remember when I started being an electrician, helping dad out. But we always had dogs growing up. That was just part of the process, I think, for responsibility. And then we are absolutely responsible to keep our rooms picked up and keep our clothes put away and keep our bathroom clean and that kind of stuff. That's about as far back as I can remember. Mom, do you remember any of the things that we were responsible for doing? Aaron says taking out trash, washing dishes, and cutting grass. And so those seems to be very chore related. And so let me ask a follow-up question to that. Beyond the chores, what kind of things do you oversee as an adult? All right, what is something that you steward over? And you can come up with any ideas. They can be spiritual things, They can be physical things, but what is something that you steward over? And maybe I should give a definition for stewardship, which will be in a little bit, managing something given to you. But as an overseer or a governor, what is something that you oversee as an adult? Grace says, "Still the rabbit." And so, yeah, I was picking up rabbit hair out of the living room just a little bit ago. Grace, I'm looking forward to you being home tomorrow, and you can practice your new cleaning skills in our living room and behind the couch, under the couch, and over the couch. Caleb says he's stewarding over his property. And what kind of property is that, Caleb? Um, your truck, your horses, your house, your grass, your wife, your what kind of things are those? What kind of things as an adult do you have to govern or steward over? Brenda put committees. Yeah, lots of committees and people that won't do the things that are supposed to be done. BTW, by the way, Brenda, the baseball fields are tilled up and good to go. I think they played softball there the other night. Mom put unloading the dishwasher. That was something that she probably still stewards over, but we had to unload the dishwasher. I remember we had to vacuum, we had to dust regularly, and we had a chore list left there at the house. Will says, "My wife is my property. Someone tell her ASAP." Yeah, all right. Yeah, I ain't telling her. You can tell her. Um, Brenda says, "Thank you." Caleb says his truck, his pole barn, cutting grass, weed killing, vehicle, and equipment maintenance. Isn't it fun adulting? You know, adulting is an adjective or noun, but your generation has turned it into a verb. It's just not what you do when you grow up. It's called adulting. And so what other kind of things do you guys steward over? There's like 25 people on right now, and I'm getting like 4 people to comment, and there's a bunch of lurkers. There's a whole bunch of lurkers. There's people that have not clicked on the page. And so I don't get you as a statistic. You do not like or share or subscribe. And so I don't get to move up in Facebook. So if you would touch your screen and actually come online and then go down to the little write a comment and then use your fingers to type. And you may even have a text or talk to text, but be careful before you send that uh, and it gets on the live feed. So, anyway, Tammy says setting and assigning my kids schoolwork, chores, and schedules. Yeah, and that's part of the process of stewardship. That's some we're going to see tonight. Caleb says overseeing the sound room at church. That's a shared responsibility, but it's some you have to communicate in that responsibility as well. Aaron put his family, youth group, construction, business, church, vehicles, phone, including broken phones. And by the way, since your wife does not text all the time, I do have her iPhone 6 here if you need that, and we should be getting new phones in November. And so that's just a sidebar. All right, so more people are all of a sudden getting on, and I'm waiting for them to comment. What kind of things do you have to oversee as an adult? What kind of things are you overseeing as an adult? That is the question for tonight. Tonight, we're going to be covering 2 P's of parenting, and one of them we've covered because of the way I prioritize uh, parenting. My book and Pastor Tice's book, "Raising God's Kids in Sin City." We prioritize these differently, but they're the same. And tonight, one of the P's will be press instant obedience, and the other one will be partner with your spouse. And we'll see what that means really, because if you're single or if you're a grandparent tonight and you're parenting your kids, we'll see what that looks like. And tonight, we're going to be looking at from the beginning of the teaching in my book is teach them stewardship. So we're going to look at priorities. I'm going to make the transition break, and then we are going to come right back, and we will get into the class. All right, back, and here we go. All right, tonight we're going to be looking at oh, and I always forget this slide. My name is Alan Ball, and tonight is presented to you by Narrow Trails. I have to say that. All right, let's get that off of there so we can get into our class. Our target verse is always Psalm 127, 3 and 4. Lo, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are the children of the youth. And so still tonight we're aiming or pointing children, and we are straightening them so they will fly better. We're equipping them with a sharp point so they can accomplish what needs to be done. And then we are the ones that are shooting them. We are the ones that are sending them, if you will, into the field or into the target. And I preached a message a few weeks ago on I press towards the mark high calling in Christ Jesus, and we know that the target is our Lord. The target is God, and so we are pressing towards that mark, a very specific point. If you were an assassin and you've watched some FBI shows, they will be given a mark, and that's somebody that they follow, target, and then they take out. And so that's the purpose of that scripture. The children are a heritage, fruit of the womb is a reward, and arrows are in the hand of a mighty man. So are children of the youth. The motto for Hoosier Hills: it's easier to build boys and girls than to repair men and women. And so we must do our work early, and we must be consistent while they are young. All right. So tonight we're going to look at this topic, and it is teach them stewardship. I'm going to give a definition to stewardship because we want to stay on task. Stewardship is managing something given to you, managing something given to you. And so I think maybe I asked this: what was the first thing you were given that you were responsible for? Or let's do it this way, since we kind of already asked that question. What is the first thing that you purchased that you uh, began to guard with your life because it was a possession that you had invested in. Let's put it that way. So, what was the first thing? Let me change this question for me too. What was the first thing you purchased that you cared about? Let's put it that way. So, stewardship, we're gonna start building responsibility and accountability. Mark Twain said, "Laws control the lesser man, right conduct controls the greater man." Um, that Blackman says the first thing she bought that she really began to steward was her car, and I would say a car is probably going to be for a lot of people the first thing we bought at any age or as an adult. Tammy, at any age, first thing you remember purchasing that like you cared about your brothers and sisters, you want nobody else to have it, destroy it, take care of it. You knew where it was all the time. Caleb says a 1997 Ford Ranger. Yep, that was one of the first ones. What do you remember what you paid for that, Caleb? $500. So that was pretty cool. Sam says uh, a Lego, just one Lego or a bunch of Lego. Well, that's what I said. So a Lego or a bunch of Lego. All your Lego. It's so dumb. It's Legos. Aaron says the first thing he purchased that he oversaw was a ping pong table. And so I'm sure he had to keep Amos off of that all the time. Tammy now says a camera that I bought when I was 12. That would have been a great possession. That would have been something that you would want to take care of. Grace says, still a rabbit. And she misspelled rabbit. So that's interesting too. And so she has answered every question with rabbit. And so I see she don't take she doesn't take care of anything else but the rabbit. And there's some question about that as well. I hear him hopping around in there, and he's looking for a carrot. Grace, bring him in here. Bring him in here and put him on camera so people can see the rabbit. All right. So a steward is a man employed in great families. Now, this is the biblical definition as far as the Greek word goes. So a steward is a man employed in great families to manage the domestic concerns, manage the property, and keep the accounts. This later is going to be the reward for overseeing or stewarding will be the reward, not as a husbandman, but the individual after the husbandman. The Greek form of the word explains that this person is a governor or an overseer. They have authority, but that authority has been established by God, and that's where they get their marching orders. And so, if they would, if you would have purchased something and you would have had that as your possession, you would have governed over it. Who drives it? Who can be in it? Thinking about Beth saying a vehicle, Caleb saying a vehicle. Those would be things that can you eat in it? Who can drive it? Did you put gas back in it? Those type of things. And so we're looking at stewardship, managing something, giving to you. Chat. What kind of things will your soon to be grown kids have to manage or oversee? So this is implying at different ages. If you've got several kids, what is the next thing you're expecting them to manage or oversee? I saw John was mowing today, maybe um, on Todd's mower. First Peter 4:10. Let's get there. First Peter 4:10 says, "Oh man, where did that verse come? Because I skipped it. Luke 12 and verse 42 says, "And the Lord said, Who then is a faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall find, or whom his Lord will make ruler over his house?" And so that's a great question, because if there's going to be a governor or overseer, it's going to have to be someone that you would desire to make a steward over it. When we would leave the house as the kids got older, obviously the older kids were given the authority over the younger kids, and that began a process of responsibility and answering to those things. Then, as they would age, responsibility would be added. I think, all of the kids picked up sticks when they were younger, and that was their responsibility for whoever mowed. And they all hated that, and then they all wanted to be the mower, and then they got to mow, and then they finally get to weed eat around the house, and that process grows them up and prepares them for that's going to be a part of their life for the rest of their life. So what kind of things? All right, you guys quit being funny and listen. What kind of things will your soon grown up kids need to manage or oversee? Aaron says, we're trying to teach our kids to manage their emotions, and they have to be a steward. They have to begin to oversee that, and have self will, have self control. The Bible says that, and we'll see later in the end times, that people will be incontinent, which means they lack self control. And so, what kind of things will your soon grown up kids? One day soon, your kids will manage all sorts of stuff. But what is next for them? Caleb says next for his kids are finances. And that's probably just himself. Yeah, Beth said yes, mowing a lot of grass. And it's a nice mower. And so I'm sure he enjoys that. I saw the go kart as well, which is beginning to manage. We had our kids had go karts. We had a golf cart. They beginning to manage the safety of that. They had uh, battery powered. What are those things called? Power wheels or whatever. And so they have battery powered power wheels, and they use those and begin to manage where they were going, stopping and starting, not running over people, not backing into stuff. All of that kind of stuff. They're beginning to put those things. You can tell Shelby never had a power wheel, or at least hers didn't have reverse. And so, what kind of things will your soon to be grown kids have to manage? Yeah, time. That's one we're going to look at, a steward of time. There really are two things that we learn to steward, and that's it is our finances and our time. And there's many other things. Let me get a drink. Will says manage themselves, get themselves up, ready for school, doing chores without prompting. Yep, learning to do those things, and we call that uh, buying in or having skin in the game. Because we are helping them. Uh, go through life and giving them a space to live, they're beginning to manage and be appreciative of that. So they're learning to manage themselves, begin to learn to wake up to an alarm instead of waiting till they get a job to learn to do that. So learning to be responsive. Uh, Tammy says our girls are still at the picking up sticks job stage, but push mowing is next. Yep, and I think with Caleb, that's how that process. I think we were in the parsonage, and that process worked. And he began. We had to pick up the uh, water hoses and kids' toys and that kind of stuff because we lived in the parsonage. And so Abby says self management and time management, and that's very important, because you're limited in time. Aaron put time, money, relationships, and setbacks. How do you manage or steward or oversee setbacks, and what are the first steps after a setback to pave the road or head down the road to the comeback. All right, so let me ask you this then, chat. If your kids are responsible for this list of chores or responsibilities, how do you manage that stuff? And do you manage it well? I just put chat, do you practice this? Savannah says technology as well. Yep, learning to manage that. And that's a big deal because technology seems to manage us. And here I'm saying that looking at a live feed, but at the same time, not being obsessed with it. Will said trying to rely on them to manage their free time and to their study life. Yeah, and their study life as well. So managing coming home, they have to be responsible for their grades to a limited amount, and then a lot of times, as busy as families are, things fall through, and you don't catch on to that stuff. So one of the things that we have helped our kids, or we've tried to help our kids, and maybe Caleb can talk about this later, is most of them have had allowance, and there's been times in our marriage when there was not enough money for allowance, and the kids knew that, and that was just a part of the process. But learning to manage allowance, you can put yes or no, and you might put a reason why not or why for short, but do you practice allowance, or do you plan to practice allowance? And I'm not talking about making your kids rich, but I'm talking about teaching them to manage some finances. Our verse is found out of 1 Peter 4:10. It says, "As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God." And so there's a great debate over ways to require your kids to have responsibilities. And really, even in my book and in Brother Tice's book as well, we both make mention of the idea of having allowance. An allowance allows them to manage finances, categorize wants and needs, answer responsibly for things they may damage that are not theirs. That is one of the things that our kids have had to manage, because we just were not rich financially. So if the kids purchase something, and we would allow them to build up savings and buy something that they desired. And if they purchased something and then one of the other kids destroyed that, then they had to pay for that. And so learn to appreciate the stuff of others as well. And not be jealous or destroy the property of someone else, and we that could go a long way in today's society, and learning not to destroy other people's property, but also learn chat chat allowances allowed them to learn to give and allowed them to learn to save. And we're not teaching them to manage their things and in turn manage their lives. We're not talking about just managing 10% of it. We're talking about managing the whole of it. So every aspect of it, not that 10% of their finances and 10% of their lives are God's, but their whole life is God's, and all their finances are God's, and they're God's first. And so we're teaching them to be stewards over the whole amount, the whole amount in their life, the whole amount, everything that they own, everything that they do. Will says, Well, let me go back to my teaching view. Not allowance, but they will work for their grandfather, Denny, to make money and learn to manage it. Some Jacob is better than others, Kylie, at saving money, and part of that is just prioritizing. And we thought it was funny when our kids began to get allowance and they began to learn that we had drinks at home, and if we were out, they could buy a drink, if we were going through a store, but they would have to pay for it. But if they knew, they would say, "Are we going straight home?" And we would say, "Yeah." And they, "Okay, well, I'll just wait till we get home," because then they could just drink the stuff that we had already purchased. Um, Romans 12:1 talks about, let's get back to my iPad. Romans 12:1 talks about them presenting their bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to the Lord, which is a reasonable service. So every bit, every piece, every ounce, the Bible says that we should love the Lord the God with all our heart, all our soul, all of our mind. So we're learning that every piece, we're stewarding every piece for God. Beth says, yes, we give allowance and try to teach him to manage it when I'm consistent or give him notice ahead of time. He doesn't whine. He knows that's what we're doing, school, etc. Yes, and that is not that you lord that over him, but that is part of the process. Having the ability uh, to receive the things they want, but then learning to manage the things they want with the things that they need. I think there was a point in time when, because we were going through many socks and underwears, we began to make the kids, we were like, okay, since you cannot take care of your own socks and underwear, they had to buy their own socks and underwear. And it was funny because Caleb might get down to two pair of socks and two pair of underwear. And it's just because he didn't want to spend his money on those things. Shelby says, still in progress, continuing to reevaluate my priority with God's word. And then she says, also with the leadership of her husband. Tammy says, we haven't really done allowances so much as paying them for specific extra jobs, but we do use that to teach them how to manage money. Yeah, and it's a very tricky system if you're just doling it out, and then even managing that, even being a parent and learning to manage uh, how to give it out, when to give it out, did they deserve it? Having some kind of star system. And I think everybody's reaching for something. They're trying to do. They're trying to do something. They're trying to learn how to manage that. Will says it's funny how those things aren't as important to have when they spend their own money on it. Yeah, all of a sudden water doesn't taste so bad, and that doesn't matter. And Tammy says, yeah, I started charging the boys 50 cents for every coat hanger they broke because it got ridiculous for a while. Oh man, it's just crazy. And not that they're expensive, but I mean, once you just start buying them all the time, it does get crazy. So I always use this account when teaching stewardship. And this story, and tonight Caleb is going to be my guest for the Q&A time, and so it's just a coincidence that it is tonight and he is here. But I don't remember what age he was, probably about 5, maybe 4. And he and I had a day together where we went to um, Toys R Us, and he was really just loving Thomas the Train. And he wanted to go there and buy, I believe it was a Thomas the Train. And we had some wooden ones, but they had ones that could put batteries in them and that would pull the trains around the track. And he had saved up enough money to purchase that. And so we went and we had a big day. We went and got lunch. We went in to town. We ended up at Toys R Us. And guess what? No Thomas the Train. And he was pretty upset about it. And so he said, I guess I'll get a green one. I don't even remember what that train was, Percy. And so uh, I took a knee with him and just said, "No, that's not what we came for. We're not here just to spend money." And so I wanted him, if to be patient and to wait. And obviously at that age, he was crying. And I mean, if Miles is watching, maybe he just got something in his eye, but he was crying. And the manager come around, and we ended up walking up to the front, and she gave him a rain check, and I think it was about 10 days he had to wait. But the wait the juice was worth the squeeze. And so waiting on or getting exactly what he wanted, getting exactly what uh, he desired to have, and then he took care of that and managed it and oversaw it. And the twins were not allowed to mess with it, grab it, chew on it. Probably at that age. Um, and or do nothing with it. And so he managed that Thomas the Train, and even at 4 years old, he was learning to steward what he had saved. And I think that money probably was from Christmas and birthdays, and then he was learning to not settle for the things that he wanted, but to purchase those things that he desires. And so I always use that account. Years later, I stood with him, and he's here tonight. But years later, I stood with him after we had looked at a bunch of trucks, talked about bunch of trucks, and I watched him pay cash for his first truck, own it, feel the sense of liberty of not having any debt and owing no man, and it was well taken care of, but it was older, and he about washed the paint off of it. I think the first few months, and vacuuming it and cleaning it. And just a few weeks ago, uh, Nathan made a big purchase and purchased a nice truck, has a job, and is being responsible for that. Grace has got a nice car because Shelby backed into Nathan's truck, and so so she got a nice car, and she had to purchase that. She always had to purchase several cars, and so as a result of that, but we love her anyway. Yeah, she doesn't even have a car now. She's got Caleb's car and Caleb's truck. And so, yeah, and then we gave her a special parking spot in the driveway. So, but it is neat to watch them make a full return. Where Nathan has talked about buying motorcycles. They've talked about buying different computers and stuff, and then they just wait for the right opportunity and pray and wait. And a lot of times, the impulse buy or the impulse of being having to steward over your finances, it goes away. Let's see. I think I've got my first. Are those on here? They are on here. The first excerpt from the book says, "Right now, you are responsible for their decisions, their experiences, and their time. Soon, because life is a vapor, she will be responsible for making their own decisions, and we want them to succeed. God will give him a record, a tool, an influence to reach others for Christ. It will be his testimony. He will only get one, and it's fragile. If damaged, it can greatly affect his ability to serve God in the future." And so we're really teaching them to steward, because they're going to be a steward over their own testimony before God. And so it's important that they are being trained piece by piece. This needs to be intentional. This does not happen accidentally. Irresponsible parents will raise irresponsible kids. You need to take the time to help them learn to manage their things. If they play sports, their stuff needs to be managed together. As a parent, you shouldn't be running around at the last minute finding their stuff for them. Get them off their phone, get them off of the games, get them out of bed, and begin demand them to steward over the things that they have. You are their parent, you are not their servant. And so you are guiding them and directing them. Um, uh, Titus 1:7. Let's see what that says. I think that's you make sure my all of a sudden my um where in the world is my there we go. Titus 1:7 says, "For a bishop must be blameless as the steward of God, not self-willed, not suit angry, not given to wine, not striker, nor given to filthy lucre." What is a bishop? A bishop is a biblical position. It's one of the positions for a pastor, but a bishop is a pastor as an overseer, and so that overseer must be blameless as the steward of God, not self-willed. So he is his will is given to God. So a pastor, an overseer, we would say a preacher, and then we would say each person is a preacher. How will they hear without a preacher? So each person needs to steward the gospel well and their life and decisions that they may tell others and feel the weight to do it. We are not loosed from overseeing or stewarding our lives and being the steward over the gospel. When the Bible says how should they hear, it means that we are responsible to give, and that's the end game in teaching them to be stewards, is that they begin to learn to steward over the things that God is giving them and overseeing them, and they begin to learn to steward over their talents. We're studying in 1 Corinthians 13 and Romans 8 in Sunday school, and we're looking at what our talents are, and then we're learning how to, if we have a talent, and we should have, and God has given us, then learning how to develop that talent. So their stewardship of temporal things will give way to overseeing the greatest responsibility, and that is the burden to tell others. They will become that steward. Luke 12:48 says, "For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required, and to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more." And so, as they've understood, our kids have understood, and you can't be in authority until you learn how to be under authority. But once you manage to steward this hierarchy in life, then you begin to get more responsibility. More responsibility comes, I say, more pay and greater rewards. But obviously, there is more pressure. 1 Corinthians 4:1 says, "Let a man so account of us as the ministers of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God." And so on page 44 of my book, right down towards the bottom, I wrote this: "Time is a great asset to teach your child to steward." I'm not a fan of sleeping in or of wasting time. The older I get, the more I agree with this statement. A body in rest seems to stay at rest, but a body in motion seems to stay in motion. An evangelist friend of mine says, "If it's effective, I do it. If it's not effective, I don't." So we have to learn to begin to tell ourselves no, to find out what things are effective for us in the gospel, and then to move forward with that. So we need not to be busybodies investing our time in matters that are pointless. And I think we do spend a lot of time running around accomplishing nothing. And I don't know if it's riches that we're chasing or what that is, but it's very unfortunate. Let's go back to in the second excerpt of the book I bought. To be successful in stewardship is to set priorities. The word priorities can literally cause a panic attack today. People are so busy. People are probably too busy. So I'm just going to read. Oh, I should have kept that open. The last two chapters in that page 44. Um, the last two chapters. The last two um, paragraphs. Uh, God's recipe for success is always putting Him first. God knows, and He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. The third priority would be your kids or preparing to have them. And so we're beginning to list priorities. I'm assuming if you are reading this, you either have kids or plan to. Your fourth priority as a Christian would be your church and personal ministries, then others, then work. Don't live for your work, live for God. The list is simple. Marcy and I find ourselves revisiting this list all the time. As our kids have grown, the list of their priorities and the things that they oversee has grown as well. And not before their time either. When our kids were babies, they needed us to watch, uh, need us their need for us was much different. So we evaluate and reevaluate. Make it a priority to steward all of these relationships. Out of bounds priority list causes all other priorities to get out of whack. I often tell Marcy, if we wait too long to address our issues, the kids will be gone and we will be left with regret. The world and the devil are competing for the hearts and minds of our children. You must take on the full armor of God and quench all his fiery darts. Teach your child to steward well. Stay sober, be vigilant, and lean on the understanding and strength of God. And so we need to do those. We need to do those things as well. So working on that. All right, let's make a transition. Then we will move to our powerful. All right, tonight we have two P's. The first P is, man, back to teaching cam. Oh, I do have it on here. Cool. The first P is, pop up here. We're going to something instant obedience, and what we're going to do is we're going to press instant obedience. Colossians 3:20, and these two verses are there. They are similar. Ephesians 6:1 as well for the next one. But it says, "Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well pleasing unto the Lord." We've covered this topic, instant obedience, in my book already, and so we're just going to talk about a couple of things, and then we'll move along. And so I just wrote, children should never be allowed to whine, pout, throw fits, or even say, wait a minute. Obedience is doing exactly what you are to do when you are told to do it, with a right heart attitude. When told to do something, they should immediately begin to accomplish the task. You are training them to respond to God's authority and God's will for their lives. And so this is what instant obedience is. We had a couple visit for premarital counseling, and it came 9 o'clock. And we told the kids it was time to go to bed, and they all came in. They already had their pajamas on, brushed their teeth. They gave us a kiss, and they all went to bed. And the couple just looked astonished at Marcy and I, like, "What in the world are you doing? Was that some kind of voodoo?" And no, it was because it was training, and that's what they've been trained to do. A disobedience response got met with discipline, and discipline meant typically spanking. And so it didn't take too much of that for them to begin to learn. Look, there isn't as much pressure on my rear end at night if I just go to bed when I'm told to go to bed. And so this couple, as they were sitting with us, we were preparing to fly to Florida to marry them. They told us that they didn't plan to have any kids because it just seemed like kids were so bad. But now they have two. So I think it was funny. And when they had their first kid, they said we're going to have kids because we saw the things that you all were doing with your kids as well. And so if this is not the case, if you are not making them do, if they are whining, pouting, throwing fits, telling you to wait a minute, they're not obedient exactly when you say, they don't begin to, then go back into those P's. Practice personal apology. Tell them you're sorry for not making them obey, and then tell them that you are going to do better, and press yourself to be obedient to the requirements you have set. Stay the course. Change their course towards instant obedient. And so you may have to write some of those things down, which then just leads us directly right into our next P, and we will look at that. So press instant obedience, and then next um, we are going to partner with our spouse, and we're going to see how this is very different, because not every person watching tonight has a spouse as well. So Ephesians 6:1 says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." And the parents obviously is plural. When opposing instructions are given, how will the child know how or who or how to obey? So if you have two different sets of guidelines in your home, how do they ever know who to obey? And obviously, they're always going to go to the weaker or lesser parent when they desire to do things maybe that are marginal to the other parent. So you need a united front. Discuss things you disagree on, come to a shared conclusion, write things down. We used to post stuff in the house, Bible verses and rules. They were very simple. We grew up with the motto, kids, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, simple, silly. But it just was keep it simple, stupid. This is in the woke generation that I'm doing this video. So keep it simple, stupid. So um, small commands demanded direct obedience, and so we wanted to give them simple commands demanded simple obedience. We want to give them simple commands to follow through. It's simple for you and simple for them. Let me just say this: let your pride go. From pride comes contention and every evil work. Pray and work together. If you are single, find someone you respect and who have the type of children that you want to have, and go to them. Let them help you. Let them critique you. Let them help you put together a plan. Do not go to someone that has children that are disobedient and slow to respond to obedience. Ask others how you got here and how that took place. So be a student and get exhortation. Uh, all right, still going. Marcy and I grew up very differently. I grew up in a conservative, structured home. She grew up in a liberal, unstructured home. So our coming together was very difficult. It took a lot of work for her and I to manage working together, being together, doing things together, and so we still do not agree on everything. So we have to talk about those things. I have to convince her; she has to submit to, and so we have to work to those things to get together. Remember, their flesh is in rebellion, trying to get outside of the parameters and rules, but their spirit loves obedience, guidelines, and structure. Safety is in knowing, not doubting. And so the social and surrounding influences are not on the side of the parent or the home and the family. Let's see if I put up this. I think my teaching cam just kicked off. Nope, there it is. I don't know what that little glitch was. It caught me. 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 4. It's long. This know also, in the last days, perilous times shall come. And a lot of these are relationship based. Men shall be lovers of their own self. They shall be covetous and boasters and proud and blasphemers, disobedient to parents. That's where we are. Unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. So I have a list to consider areas of conflict, and you can go back in this and pause it, take a screenshot or write these down. But this is just a short list. The number one, what is most important for your children? So you need to determine what's most important for your children, and people have different ideas what that would be. Is it going to be their walk with God? Is it going to be their education? Is it going to be their finances? What will that be? Number two, what church should we attend? And we think it's important that people choose a church where the Bible is being preached. What kind of school will they attend? Will they go to homeschool, private school, Christian school? Will it be a Montessori school? Will it be the public school? Which public school? Which teacher? All of those things. Don't. It's just not a roll of the dice. This is not a gamble. This is something that you're looking to do intentional. What kind of TV stuff can they watch? You should steward and manage over the things that they watch on TV. And so you're partnering with your spouse, where one spouse is not letting him watch things where another spouse is. And look, don't build your fort on this, guys or girls. Look, if one partner just says, "Look, we don't want them to watch that," then just don't let them watch it. Just let that be the end of it. Uh, will we have TV and movie restrictions, and what will those restrictions be? And it's important to have those determined before you get to that place. Begin to apply these restrictions to yourself as well. What type of friends can they have? All right. So that's very important. You're going to steward over or manage your friend. Like I said before, we're not just rolling and hoping. Arrows are shot out of a bow. You are the archer, they are the arrows. You are being very intentional. Who will do the majority of discipline, or will it be shared? As they grow, how will that change? Are they boys or girls? How will that be managed? Is one person too hard, one person too soft? Where is the middle ground of that? I think this is the last one, but it's an important one. Will they be allowed to stay of at someone's house, or will others be allowed to stay over at your house? When we just have had a policy, and part of that's because we're in the ministry, And so we're exposed to a lot of people, but our kids just do not spend the night at other people's houses. And we just had that policy. We think that policy is best. Uh, um, I was introduced to pornography at a friend's house, and Marcy had things happen at friends' houses. And so, out of the oversight of the primary steward, and so we just shut that down. And we were very selective about who or if anybody can stay. Usually here it's been with the youth group, and it's a group of kids, and really it's best because if we start picking and choosing, then people are going to get their feelings hurt. So it's best if our kids stay at our house. Their kids can stay late, but then we get them back together with their families, and so that has to be managed. Do they have the same type of rules and structure? Do their kids have unfettered access to the internet through their phones and iPads and that kind of stuff? I mean, you can't imagine the litany of things that are present and possible that could go wrong. So every parent should partner with God's word first. That's where your stewardship is going to be learned best. Partner with their spouse if one is present. And then if one's not present, you should partner with your church. And so that's why it matters where you go. So you're going to partner with your church family. You're going to find another lady who has a strong man. If you're a single mom, you're going to find another man that has a strong wife. If you're a single dad, and you're going to allow them to sharpen you through iron, speak into your life, and give you direction when it comes to uh, partnering with your spouse or partnering as a team. You're not in this alone. All right, so we're going to stop just a minute. I'm going to go into the transition break for tonight, and then Caleb's going to get set up. I got a few questions for him. You can be thinking about some questions for him as well, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. Caleb's messing with his microphone. Say hello, Caleb, so I can see your.
Hello, hello.
All right, good to go. Camera's a little out of focus. There's no way I can focus that from here, and your glasses are
Ring light in the
glary.
glasses, isn't that all right?
Yeah, it's gonna be ringy. All right, so Caleb is what? What number are you? How old are you?
I am 24. I am number 3.
Number 3, 24. Caleb, are you married?
Yes, be 4 years next month.
4 years next month. What is your wife's name?
Shelby with an I.
All right. Where did you meet her at?
Church.
Church. And what kind of things do you all have in common? That'll be the short list.
We work a lot.
Yeah.
I guess the horses and church, really. We kind of have different hobbies from each other, but most anything we do is like if you were to sit down, if like we had a lot of hobbies, we'd have a lot of different hobbies, but between church, work, and horses, you don't have much time for anything else.
Yeah, right.
So about anything we do, we're together most of the times.
All right. What other questions? What was the first thing you started being responsible for?
I had forgot about that Thomas the Train thing, but that was one of the first things as a kid that I purchased, and I remember that. I don't remember a lot of things when I was that age, but I remember that encounter vividly, and it stuck with me. But uh, my vehicles have definitely. I've only had trucks, so my trucks have been. I've picked them apart, make sure they're taken care of, and I was trained to take care of my stuff.
How many trucks have you had, and then what was your favorite one?
Uh, if you count the red flatbed, it was 5. And the one that I have now is probably my favorite. I had a 97 green dually, and I miss it. But the one that I have right now is by far my favorite.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice truck. What kind of truck is it?
It's a 2012 F350.
Stop shaking your leg and calm down.
Sorry. A 2012 F350, black, the long bed with the 6.7 Power Stroke diesel in it.
And does it say "Oh yeah" when it leaves?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Shelby says she drives it more than you drive it.
Not really. She drives it most of the time, but if there's any driving being done in this relationship, it's me.
Yeah. So you drive it. You drive to work. So trucks, Thomas the Train and trucks. That's the only thing you've ever stewarded over, really.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple life. It's good being broke.
Right.
Amen. Don't have much to oversee. Where are your struggles when it comes to stewardship? We were looking at stewardship of time, and we were looking at stewardship of stuff, and maybe our walk with God. Where do you struggle at?
Honestly, it may sound silly, but taking the time actually as a steward to kind of sit back and take time to yourself to study or to, just enjoy what God's given you. I'm never one to sit still. If I sit still, I fall asleep. For the most part, I was just about to on the couch
I
there.
seen you over it.
And but really, that's which is funny. Actually, today I got home and laid out in the shade by the pole barn with the dog and just laid in the grass for like 30 minutes. I just looked into the sky. That's something I don't enjoy the handiwork of God, and I have a hard time sitting still to read my Bible.
Yeah, we can see Him in nature. Nature says there's a God, and so struggling over probably a steward of time. I mean, would an app benefit you? I mean, I've had 1,000 little notebooks where you write stuff down in to keep priorities in line. Would an app help you to manage time, you think, at all?
Not my personality. I keep like my calendar's pretty laid out to know where me and Shelby are going to be, what's going on that day, and I kind of manage it in my head myself. But as many notifications as you get during the day, you kind of grow numb to them. And so no, it wouldn't.
The
I
only
wouldn't keep
person I
up with
know
it.
that keep up with all the notifications they get is Douglas Townsend.
Yeah.
That's it. And
That's true.
other than that, I think everybody's struggling. List your top 5 priorities in order, and it can be either a list of what they should be. Let's do that. Let's list them in order what you think your top 5 priorities should be. Chad, I want you to list what you think your top 5 priorities are in order. So first one's first, all the way down to number 5, and I'm gonna make yours in the comment. What are some? What is your first priority?
I mean, your first priority is what it should be is your study time with God. I'm not even gonna say Bible reading or prayer, but your personal relationship with Christ.
All right. So God, what would be your second priority?
Second would be my wife, and future family, but wife specifically secondly.
All right. So your spouse is second. The Bible talks about Christ having the preeminence. You've heard me teach, but that means he's number 1 to 100,
say,
and then your spouse is number 101, and that way if you fall from one, he's still stuck in there. All right, God, then spouse, then what?
I would even put, and of course we don't have kids yet, but I would put your kids would become third because it's you and your wife become one flesh, like you are. I think above that in a sense, making sure you're good there. And if both of you aren't on the same page, then the third thing isn't going to fall into place like it
Yep.
should anyways.
All right. So God, spouse, kids, what next, you think?
Especially as the leader of a household is be my job or making sure my family's taken care of and that we have, and I'm doing what I can. I know God can provide for us in different areas and we should have faith in him to provide. but that I shouldn't be like, I shouldn't use that as an excuse not to do nothing or to try and work something up if I can to help out my family.
It'd be nice if you could just lay around and pray it all in,
Right.
but it just doesn't seem to work like that, at least for us anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So God, spouse, kids, job last.
After that, it would be the things God had given me. I would say more back towards my property and the house and the things He's blessed me with, vehicles and like it. I'm not one to just throw an excuse or just throw stuff away because I don't have time to take care of it or whatever. Like, no, God's given me these things. I shouldn't just trash them or just throw them to the side. Like, I need to put time into taking care of the things He's given me.
All right. So there's Caleb's list: God, spouse, kids, job, or his providing, his house, property, or possessions. Nathan has put up a few. Number 1, the Lord. Number 2, his family. Number 3, church. 4, work. 5, fun. And when you live at home, your priorities are a little bit different.
Right.
Nathan, fun as in extra activities. The other 4 are fun too. I don't know if that's true or not. Chat, what are you typing them in? I'm waiting for them to pop up. I would say of Caleb's list: God, spouse, kids, our provision, then our house, property, and possessions, and somewhere probably between kids. So 3 and 5 would be, for me, would be church. I don't know how that fits in. Christ had nowhere to lay his head, and so I think we're always trying to figure out what is next. Shelby said, "Quiet time with God, husband, home, church, family, and friends, work, and possessions." And
I would
so,
that fifth one I would fit in like your responsibilities, and so then your responsibilities you have at church would fit in there too. But taking care of those things
yeah.
um, that you've agreed to do.
Grace says, "God, family, friends, church, work, and possessions." What else? What else you got? I'm waiting on some of you others to put in. Will says, God, wife, children, church, family. Marcy says, God, Alan, kids, grandkids, home, church responsibilities. Abby put home, husband, children, or God, husband, children, home, church, business. Let's ask this then, as people are maybe still typing in. Do you keep those priorities in line?
No.
What, and I put, and chat can do the same. What kind of things distract you from your priority list? What kind of things would you say are the greatest distraction? We'll look at a few more. Tammy says relationship with God, family, church ministry, and possessions. Uh, Nathan says absolutely not, which I'm assuming is too. He does not keep those priorities. Maybe they need to be written down and put on the doorpost of our house. Nathan or Marcy put chickens. They got to be in there somewhere.
Are they distracting, or was that on the
Are
list?
they there?
Okay.
Oh, the chickens are distracting. Yeah, I'll see her sitting out in the yard in a lawn chair watching the chickens
Hi, Juba.
and whatever. So, uh, what else? What else? Who else has a list? And then, what kind of things distract you from keeping your priorities? What would you say? What is the greatest distraction from keeping your priorities?
I think just the busyness of life. Like if you don't, it's the way I was raised. I have a routine. I have like if I keep stuff in order, it helps me to get things done. But that doesn't leave any room for me to break from that routine. And if my routine that I've built is flawed, then I'm missing things I should be doing. And so the busyness, like I was saying earlier, I don't pull myself aside to have one-on-one time with Christ. I don't pull myself aside to have a little bit of quiet time so I can hear what He wants me to do. But just by the time you go to work and do do your job, you come home, try to take care of what you got going on there, you forget, and then when you get some downtime, you think, well, I need to rest or I need to take some. But in that downtime is when it really gets important because do I pull my phone out? Do I go to the TV? Do I pull my Bible out? That's where it gets important.
And we were probably, when you were young, I was managing the business and the church, uh, and we were probably busier than we had ever been. I also had side work, and we had
When I was
projects going on at church
when I
as
was
well.
13, Grandma thought I had mono for a little bit of time. It was because we were working so
Working so much,
much,
you were so
and I was doing
skinny.
school at the
Yep,
same time.
it was crazy, and and that's where life has it. I mean, it's been different for each group of kids that have come through.
Mhm.
That has changed over time. Will says what prevents him from his priorities is himself.
Yep.
If we could learn to manage ourselves, we could learn to manage our priorities. And
I believe when it comes down to it, like especially my generation wants to run away from the responsibilities and the things that, and they want to blame other people for what's going on. When it comes down to it, everything that happens to you is of your own choice. Like it's your responsibility to take care of yourself and what you have going on. So when it comes down to it, it's not anybody's fault. It's you managing yourself.
yeah, and once I think one of the things, I mean, since Savannah's gone and you're gone, uh, one of the things that Nathan and I and uh, and I'm aware of with Sam and with Grace as well is we are revisiting our extracurricular stuff all of the time because we can busy every night,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's our tendency. We don't tend to be lazy. We tend to overbook. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see what a few. Marcy says her flesh. Aaron, clarify. You say rearranging the priority list causes more issues for me than anything else. You mean getting the list out of order or having to reorder? Tammy says busyness and laziness are the two things that distract her from her priorities. So from one end to the other, and when the pendulum swings, we tend to swing it too far back instead of finding a place. Grace says, I try to. That's something new she's got. Like Sam does taekwondo, she does I try do. They definitely get jumbled together normally because of lack of motivation in business. Yeah, those are distraction and lack of motivation. And I think once you get behind, you kind of give up on
You get
trying to
overwhelmed.
catch back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beth says tiredness and stress. Obviously, everybody's looking for a place where they can have less stress, but I mean, it just doesn't seem like in today's world you can manage stress very
Mm-hmm.
well. We've been sitting out back the last week, Nathan and I. I think Marcy did one night, but after dark, just go out, get in lawn chairs, and just stare at the sky for 30 minutes. Just try to decompress from the day. Aaron says his list would be God, spouse, kids, church, and work. And it's interesting how all those working together. Abby says what Will said for sure. I want to do what I want to do. Yeah, absolutely. We always prioritize ourselves at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we replace God, that's why in the list we should love the Lord thy God first with all of our heart, soul, and mind, and not ourselves. But in our world today, I mean, it absolutely is you are the priority, and
Yep.
people are taught that too. You are your greatest investment. That's what you're taught in education and finances. And then it is about self promotion today when we look at professional sports and interviewing for jobs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything is about self. Shelby says, my flesh gets in the way. I naturally always do. Not everything that I do needs to be done. Just reviewed these today and wrote down some routines to help get them in line. Aaron put correct getting the list out of order. Yeah, when the list gets out of order, it seems like it absolutely
It falls off.
topples the list. Savannah's talking about me roasting Grace. Grace said her
Trying to
priorities are
so
out of order. You know why? Because she's so
she's
tired.
tired.
So she is so tired.
No,
All
it
right.
is. And if you go you go to work to 8 hours and you come home and you've got, stuff on a list that you have to get done. And at the end of the night, that's what you think like, well, I've done everything for everybody else tonight. So now it's time for me, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And when it comes down to it, there's no time for you to do what you want to do. Like
Yeah.
it really
Yeah,
does
we
go to
say in the
everybody
ministry it's
else.
the other boy for Christ or the other girl for Christ.
Hmm.
And the Bible says we should esteem others better than ourselves. So it just seems like we're always doing that. And then
Hmm.
people take advantage of that. And how do you manage that as well? How do you tell people no?
Shelby's become a good listener.
Yeah. Do
I
you
vent. No, I mean it does. It gets frustrating,
Yeah.
but I think you have to remember if you're getting frustrated with other people taking advantage of it, you've started doing it for yourself instead of doing it for God,
Yeah.
and your priorities are in the wrong place.
I mean,
And that's what I'm finding in my own life.
then you're building wood, hay, and stubble.
Hmm.
If you're doing it for no purpose, you're building wood, hay, and stubble. I mean, really, the priority is we should focus on doing those things for the Lord, where we have to do them for the Lord.
Hmm.
Uh, do you remember any phrases about being obedient? Do you remember putting any of the verses that Mom put up, or any of those type of things?
Anytime I read the first 5 chapters of Proverbs, I feel like I can quote every one of those verses because we would start memorizing in school, and things would kind of fall away about chapter 5. But I memorized the first 5 chapters of Proverbs pretty quick, and then that delayed obedience is disobedience. When you said that tonight, I will hear that for the rest of my life. But it's true. That's the way that it is.
And we want to be in God's will. And if there's an emergency, we want our children to respond to commands.
Right. It's not time for questions or to reason.
Yeah.
It's time to act.
Yeah, and then we'll work out the details later. There's a time for us to have a discussion about what we're doing, but
Correct.
there are other times when they're not. Usually, I would change my voice when the time was not for
Right.
those. Have you and Shelby talked about any of those priorities? Let's see if I can make those pop up. Yeah. Um, what church you should attend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do that one?
Yeah. We definitely have the what's most important for your children. What's most important for your children is, or what they think is going to be most important to them is what's most important to you. So that making sure that me and her are on the same page on what is most important to us when that time comes. What kind of school that's brought up a bunch, and TV and technology in general. I'm a techie. I love tech, I like messing with that stuff, but it's definitely very dangerous and so easy to get into a bad place with that stuff nowadays. I mean, it bad stuff on the internet's everywhere, and it
Yep.
doesn't take a couple clicks. I mean, you would think on a church, me and Ethan and now Jonathan Driver are back in the sound room, and you have to ban people off of a church, live stream because that they put stuff in there that's inappropriate and
Yeah.
shouldn't be on there on a church live stream.
Yeah, we've tried to manage some of that through covenant eyes, but I mean, you can only manage to a point, and that's
Hmm.
all. And that's all you can do. There has to be some personal responsibility, and we fail, and so we ask for forgiveness,
Hmm.
and we are restored, and we come back. Um,
Discipline's definitely another hot topic in our relationship because we're two different personalities in that area. Where Shelby would be passive and forgiving, and I'm very short, blunt, and aggressive in that area. Maybe like a little bit of mercy, but that's one that we definitely talk about a good amount.
you were the kid that got the mercy too
The
over
one,
the Ed and Eddie
oh
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't get the whippings, you got the mercy. Um,
Uh,
when do you think, if you're a married couple and you don't have kids, when do you think you should start talking about those priorities? Let me see if I can bring that list back up. Teaching Cam, there's that list. What type of friends can you have? Uh, who will do the majority of discipline? Will they be allowed to stay at someone's house? When do you think, at what age or at what point should you begin to talk about those? Are you guys going to wait till you have kids to talk about those, or begin to address them already ahead of time?
no, we talked about. I mean, we've talked about it now, and I mean, honestly, if I'm gonna even take it a step further, is uh, that's what Savannah's saying. Uh, Not right when we started dating, it was the first thing we talked about, but over time, that was stuff that was brought up because if you're gonna commit, to one person for the rest of your life, you need to make sure you're on the same page in that area. But we've ever since we've been together, we've watched other couples, watch stuff like we sit and watch this every night. We don't have any kids, but we sit and watch this on Thursdays and write down notes. Make sure we have as much material as we can to help with that in the future. But we're always watching other people and when they try different things or seeing what works, what doesn't, comparing it with the Bible. watching, our parents change throughout the years too, and different things that they do as they get older. Like we're always watching that stuff.
Oh,
Um,
always observing and
yes.
learning.
As soon as you, maybe you said, as soon as you get stagnant, um, you're no longer progressing. Like you should always be trying to learn and freshen up, and then always reminding, you are one flesh, but you're not thinking of the same mind. It's still two minds in here, so you need to make sure that both of you are on the same page. I mean, we don't even have kids yet, and a lot of times, there'll be an argument over something that happened, and you're just like, I, I thought we were on the same page, and you weren't. Just because you get busy and stuff happens, and you forget to communicate those things.
And that stuff's going to crop up. I will say to you, I know Aaron Savannah's watching, and they've had to deal with this since they do have Judah and Zelda. How important it is then as stuff arises, maybe not to choose then, but to table stuff and then get together, meet, make a plan, and go forward with it. I mean, if we have no plan, well, then they say then you can plan to fail.
Right.
And so that's important as well. Does anybody have any questions? I know it'll be about 10 seconds. So any questions for Caleb that you'd like to ask? I have one question. It's been on my mind and I was thinking about it today. If your mom was to pass away, would you let me move in with you? And then if I was to pass away, would you let your mom move in with you? And I remember a very specific answer about this one time, but I just see if you still feel the same way or not.
Oh man. We run low on bedrooms.
I can build an addition.
Right, right. No, I think I've grown to a point now where I could work with both, either way. Like we no longer have a basement. Yes. I'd give you what you always told us. You can go live in the basement.
Live in the basement. It's
we
a
have a crawl space.
Yeah. But you have a barn as well.
This
And
is
really,
true.
man, it wouldn't take much to manage me. Yeah. They have a pole barn
Mom's face
house.
is priceless.
Yeah. So where would your mom
Oh.
stay? You have an outhouse? She could stay in the basement of that thing.
Her and the cat could sleep in the spare bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
She strongly
Almost.
disagrees. Oh boy. Any other questions for Caleb tonight? From chat, I know there's I looked a minute ago. There's still several people viewing. Any other questions for Caleb? Take just a few seconds for those that come through. It's been fun doing these with you kids. If things work out, I should have Savannah next week, and we may have Judah and Zelda with them here as well, which will be chaos, but it will be fun, and we'll get to talk about our next topics. But you got any questions for me?
Alan, would you let me live with you?
Alan, would you let me live with you? If Dad conks out, then yes, we would let you live with us, and that would be the plan. Will says, "Good job, Caleb."
Will's kicking me off already.
Oh yeah, it must be a football game on.
Right. No questions. It's been fun watching the parenting classes, and then even on the, like you were doing on Sundays and stuff too, watching that stuff and watching you and Mom change and grow for the better, and then not taking that not taking that in a bad way. For me, I get to see other siblings maybe get pushed in a better chance, or push better in that area, just from working through that, not being jealous of that. But it's been fun to watch you all, and to know, like, when you start to make sure that you're still open-minded to what's going on. Don't just nail yourself down and stick here, and just stick in the mud and don't go nowhere else. And make sure, I mean, nobody's perfect. Like, you've always got to be working on different areas. You may be better in one area than another, but making sure that you're keeping up in those.
There was we should be grounded in the Lord, but that means ever growing in the Lord.
Right.
And there are things that we've learned that we still believe today from the beginning, and we probably have the same belief structure, but yet we've learned how to implement that in a better way. Will said he's not watching football anymore since the Florida Kentucky game.
That was a really good game.
That was a really good game.
Uh,
Nathan says that was a really good game. So it
my
was a
in-laws
good
got
game.
to watch me jump up and down off the couch a couple of times.
Oh man, it was so much fun. Yep.
Uh,
Well, it's been a good night. Appreciate you tuning in. If you have questions, obviously you can um, message or text me. Oh, it's going to kick us back a page. Look at that. And so be sure you get on and you share this, like and subscribe and follow. And then you can go to the links there. Both books, the links are to those. Marcy she didn't finish a book, but Stephanie Tidd, let me see if I'm in front, just finished a book on Faint Yet Pursuing. It's a lady's book, Finding Strength in the Darkness. And Marcy did an excerpt in that as well. And so that's her chapter there. You can find those on Amazon, Faint Yet Pursuing, for about $8. And I'm sure Pastor Tidd's wife would appreciate that. So we're thankful that you were here with us.
we wound up having a question.
Oh, Will did have a question. Was it hard growing up in a pastor's house?
Not for me, because we were never held to I was never once told, you're a pastor's kid, you should behave like this. We were treated like anybody else would be. In all honesty, just, you're not anything special. So you were treated like all the other kids in there. You were expected to meet the same things. And honestly, we were expected to do more because we were, their kids. But no, we were never challenged to behave one way because we were pastors' kids or not.
You would been expected to live a certain way whether I was a pastor or not.
Right.
I mean, that did not make a difference. And the priorities were coming from God.
We were held to be examples to others, definitely, but you should be anyways.
Yeah.
Like, you should know that there are always people watching you, and you're an example to more people than what you think you are.
Amen. Well, we appreciate you watching. Thanks for coming over tonight and giving me your night. Look forward to.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah. I was waving bye to Dad while he was saying, yeah. All right. And so we will say good night and sign off.
See y'all.
And see you again.